Welcome to Mama Tusa, Conversations with a Midwife. I'm your host, Atusa Benji. A quick note before today's episode. This show talks about birth, life, death, and all the complexities in between. My goal is always to share stories that leave you feeling empowered, but please know that some topics may be challenging or deeply moving. Also, while I'm an experienced midwife, I'm not your midwife, and the information on this podcast is not intended to be medical advice. Please consult your healthcare provider when considering what is best for you as an individual. Now, without further ado, I hope you enjoy the show. Hello. Hi, listeners. It is time for another episode of the Mama Tusa podcast. My guest today is Sasha K. I'm so excited to have you here. I feel like I still remember the first time I saw you at a birth, and what attracted me was that you were so focused on your client and you said very little, but made very big impact. And I just loved that. That just sort of drew me to the magic of who you are. Welcome. Sasha is a birth and postpartum doula. She's also an educator. She also provides lactation support. She also supports families throughout that perinatal period. So from pregnancy all the way until having the baby and then post-pregnancy. And the other reason that I wanted Sasha to come on is because we always talk about on the Mama Tusa podcast the importance of continuity of care within the doula scope of practice. But we also talk a lot about the importance of your doula being familiar, whether that is they look like you, or their beliefs are similar to yours, or they speak the language that is yours. So they understand a piece of your lived experience. Because while, yes, you can be an excellent doula when you and your client have maybe nothing at all similar other than the fact that you're sharing the birth. But what we know statistically is that when someone looks like you and understands you, and you have to say very little about explaining who you are to the person, then typically that birth goes better. So Dona International always says a doula for everyone who wants one. And how beautiful if every mother, every birthing person had the opportunity to reach out for that specific doula for their community. And I happened to meet you at a birth where the client spoke only Russian, very little English, and you did all of your support in Russian. I know that Russian is your primary language, and you were born in Russia also.
Yeah, and most of my clients are Russian speaking. And I was thinking, what should I do in the very beginning, as I said before? And I found myself thinking that I can be more helpful in this field, helping people speaking their language, feeling more like home, because you get very fragile and sensitive during the labor and delivery and all of the process, and right after, actually, for some time. Because when you speak a different language, I can say that for sure, you need to focus more. You need to spend more energy on that. And you don't want that during the labor and delivery. You want to be relaxed. Sometimes people don't want to talk at all. And I was a chatterbox during my birth. I was so surprised when I delivered my son. I was like, I don't really speak English. What should I do? I can't shut up. Like, I don't know how they survived during my birth, but I was speaking for hours nonstop. It was my reaction probably on the stress. I'm like, blah, 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 all the time. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So it's important to have someone, as you said, very familiar, all of the jokes or, things from your childhood, like TV shows or anything. I had a funny story. One of my clients, she was like, I want to sing some songs during the birth. I'm like, okay. I mean, it was like a Russian guy. I was like, probably I know some of the songs, but during the birth, she started to sing, and I found myself like, I don't know the words. She was so upset. Like, you should have sent me in
what kind
in
of
advance.
Russian doula is
Yeah,
this? Doesn't understand my song.
I'm like, yeah, I was just joking. I was like, shame on you, Sasha.
Oh, that is so funny. That is funny. So what did your early years look like? You were born in St. Petersburg.
Yes. Born and raised till I was like 30 years old. Mm-hmm. My mom, she's an English teacher. My dad was just a businessman. But like my mom, she traveled a lot, even though it was the Soviet Union. And I started to travel very early as well. But yeah, as I said, I graduated as a psychologist, and I was focusing on that field before, but I never practiced myself. I've been working with the kids in the social facilities, the kids with some problems in the behavior from different families and stuff like that. That's what I was doing. And after I've had my daughter, which was 10 years ago.
In Russia?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I was pretty young. I was like 25 when I became pregnant. Mm-hmm. I know nothing about it. And I started digging into the information, what's going on. And I found a doctor, like, two of my friends, they delivered their babies with this doctor. Oh, that was the worst choice, to be honest. He was a tough guy. And right after I realized that I need a completely different experience than that, I thought I need someone straightforward, someone like strong, and the one who won't pity me during this process. But that's what I actually needed. But I'm proud of myself that in some point when I realized that when I was feeling a contraction actually, and I was in a very active labor, when I saw what's going on, I shut myself in a bathroom and I didn't open the door. Wow. For almost hours. They were like, you need an epidural. I'm like, I'm not leaving this place. Just leave me alone.
You made your own cave.
Yeah. And I was like,
wow,
leave me alone. And then when I get out, I was fully dilated. And they were like, okay.
I love women. Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, I was like speaking with my husband. I was like, he knew nothing, of course. I was like, should I get an epidural? He was like, let me read about it. I was like, okay.
In labor.
Yes. And after like 5 minutes break, he was like, no, you're not taking it. I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. So I delivered my daughter naturally.
With the same doctor?
Yeah. Like with this guy.
Wow.
Yeah. He was trying to be patient with me. So he was like, okay, you're fully dilated. Let's deliver your baby. But I felt like myself, like something's going on and I'm not participating in this process. I am just kind of like a victim of assault. I don't know how to explain it better. And I've been speaking with hundreds of women, because when people realize that you're a doula, they want to bring their stories to you. They want to talk about it because it's so much pain in them. And I can relate to that because I've been there. Yeah. And I went through exactly the same feelings. And this doctor, he did episiotomy to me, for example, without even asking me about it.
A routine episiotomy.
And I didn't need that. Because I pushed my girl. It was like twice I pushed and then she was delivered. So I even saw on my medical card and it says pushing period 5 minutes. It was 5 minutes. Yes. And he did the episiotomy. I'm like, why? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
let me pause you for a second. So for my listeners, an episiotomy is an incision that is made by the care provider, the doctor, the midwife, to make space for the baby, essentially by cutting from the vagina down towards the perineum, down the perineum towards the rectum. And back in the day, they did episiotomies on everybody.
Actually, they still do.
And they still do in Russia. Interesting. The research, and some parts of America also.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Right?
I was
here too. Yeah. Like
yeah.
Here in Los Angeles too. Yes, I've seen it done more with certain providers than others. What I'm seeing in the area that I am, we might be practicing in slightly different parts of LA, because Southern California is a big place and every little city has its own birth culture, right? But what we're finding is that most women don't need an episiotomy. So the reason the episiotomy came about was because when there was all this experimentation being done on women with various medications that we have offered to women over the course of the last century to make childbirth painless, quote unquote, come to the hospital, your birth will be painless and safe with a doctor. Those medications, some of them were absolutely horrific. So when you put a woman to sleep completely on something like ether or twilight sleep, she cannot push her baby out. So then you do an episiotomy. We don't, but they did. And you use the extra space to put in your forceps into her vagina and pull her baby out. If a person is awake and healthy and capable, and their baby is not struggling with oxygen, because sometimes it's still indicated to do an episiotomy if the woman is pushing and you see the baby is trying to come, but the heart rate is going down and not recovering. Sometimes we see heart rate go down, but heart rate comes back up, right? Babies do this, they have a reserve of oxygen. But if the baby's continuously going down, then it is indicated to go ahead and cut so you have more space so you get the baby out.
I've seen one episiotomy out of 100 births I supported.
There you go.
Only one.
I've seen 3 in 25 years. So by the grace of God, wherever we are, we're not doing them as routinely. But in certain countries, in certain cities, in certain states, even where we are, it's just routine, where that doctor in medical school, that's the only thing they've been taught is 10 centimeters, head, cut, baby.
Because it's a baby factory situation.
For sure.
For sure. Like we earn timing.
Get them in, get them out.
Yeah.
So for an example like yours, where you labored on your own, you got to 10 centimeters, right? Shut yourself in a closet or a bathroom so no one would bother you with your partner. You're 25 years old, so you're healthy. And you come out of the bathroom.
And my baby was
dilated.
6 pounds.
Normal size baby.
She was like...
How many weeks?
39.
At term. And still they cut you.
Yeah.
And still they cut you.
It was a nightmare because I get an infection right after. And it was a long story. So I was so frustrated as a new mom. I was like desperate, and they don't want to discharge me because they usually, like back in Russia, you stay for like 3 at least days after you delivered. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, threatening me, like you'll get infection and you'll get uterus infection, and then we'll have to remove your uterus and stuff like that. I was so scared. But then, I keep coming back to this moment lots of the times, keep thinking, but I kind of like proud of myself because it didn't stop me. I was like, I'm going home and whatever. So
Bye.
Show me the paper, I'll sign. And then I went back home and I stayed there, and it was such a healing staying in my own, environment.
In your postpartum
with my
cave.
baby. Yeah. But it taught me so much. So it was a great experience on the other hand for me, because I was like, there was so much information I didn't explore before I went. I knew nothing at all. Yeah. And because of my psychological condition, my baby was very fragile. She'd been sick a lot. I think it was kind of like a connection. So I was fighting with the doctors, like pediatrician, about her state, like what's going on. It brought me into the path where I became really like a woman and a mother for my daughter. And I was like, I think I became a pediatrician myself because I know so much stuff right now. And people sometimes asking me some advice, they were like, what do you think about that? And I'm like, okay, so you need to do this test. So you go to this doctor, because I've been, in hell with all of that allergies. And I discovered like a holistic, medicine for my girl, and hopefully it helped a lot. Now she's not allergic to anything.
Wow.
So she was completely healed. Yeah. But, when we got here, when we moved, and it was in 2018.
She was how old?
She was 3. She wasn't even 3, I think. She was 2 in like 10 months.
She was very little. And had you had a hard postpartum period yourself, despite the baby? What was your emotional state coming home?
Emotionally, I was very fragile. I cried a lot. I didn't understand what's going on. And again, I felt myself like I'm a baby myself. And there's lots of adults around me, and they pushing me, and they threatening me, and they want something from me. And I'm like, what's going on? And I didn't find much support, in the family.
The opposite of being empowered.
In friends, like, I was completely alone. I mean, my husband helped a lot, that's for sure, but he was supposed to work. So that's why every time I go to postpartum visit right now, I know what's going on there.
So interesting. I was actually talking to another one of my guests about how in Western culture, I think that there's been a separation of the experience of the mother before they have the baby, and then when they have the baby, and then coming out of having their baby and going into motherhood. It seems that in Western culture or medicine or philosophy, birth is something that's like just one moment in time. Like, oh, you go have your baby and then you come back, and it's
you deal with your problems yourself. And then you come back when you're ready, when you have a good shape, when you have a good mood, because we don't want to deal with all of that.
Exactly. But
so
not
you deal
only
by
that,
yourself.
Well, because of that, we lose sight of all the things that the layers that the person was before they went in, before they even got pregnant or had the decision to become pregnant, or even did they make the decision to become pregnant. There's so many scenarios, but very, very often I've heard people say, especially slightly older generation of like people giving birth in the 50s and 60s, where it was like, yeah, we went and had my baby, no big deal, whatever, came back. And it's like, what does that mean exactly? Because there is a whole person that has gone through a whole lived experience by the time they have their baby, before the baby even comes out, before the process of labor. Then they come out holding a baby in a whole new vulnerable place, and then they have their next journey. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that.
You know, so many things changed. And when sometimes I have an interview with the moms, and they're telling me about their mom's experience, and I was like, that's in the history. We don't know. Your mom might not remember anything. And for example, my mom, she was 19 when she delivered my brother. She doesn't remember anything, I believe. And when you're 19, you might, take it differently when you like 40, for example. So you became more like conscious, and
it's 30 years more life.
Yeah, like you understand more about what's going on. And there is me, there is my space, there is my desires, there is medical stuff. So it's a completely different story. But back in the days with me, I've had my mom, she'd been living close by, but every time she visit, she kept telling me about the mess I have in my apartment, and that you're holding the baby the wrong way, or you're doing, and that was the hell for me. And after some time, I shut myself, and I became very distant from my mother and friends as well, because I was like, I'll better deal with that myself.
Right.
Because I don't want any advices about what do I need to do. Like, I was like, if you want to help me, come and hug me, or, cook me something, but don't, tell me that I have a mess in my apartment. I know that. Yeah. I can see that.
And it happens so often because there is You can be surrounded by a whole group of people, but still feel completely alone. And I've told this story a couple of times, but I was driving one day and I drove past a car accident. I'm looking inside and I'm like, is everyone okay? Should I call 911? And it looked like everyone was managing it. But for whatever reason, I got called back to the car accident. I was like, let me just check again if everyone's okay. So I check and I was like, I think everyone's okay. I drive away. Sasha, I came back. I was like, I don't know, something about this just doesn't seem right. So I came out of my car, parked my car in the middle of the street, came out, and I went straight to the driver. And she was an older lady, and she was terrified. Now, her family was there. They had already shown up. The ambulance was on its way. She was not severely injured. She was in shock, but she was not severely injured. And all I did was sit with her and hold her hand. That is all. Now, when we got to talking, she said something like, oh, you have such a healing hand or something. And I said, well, I hold a lot of hands. I help people have babies. She said, are you a midwife? And I said, yes. She said, I'm a midwife too.
Oh my God.
And she started to cry.
I get it, goosebumps.
Right? She said, I'm a midwife too. She said, oh, so many long nights that I would stay up with the mommies and help them have their babies. My point is, she was surrounded by people who were helping her. One was taking pictures of the car. One was doing insurance information, right? One was speaking to the witnesses. She was surrounded with support, but the support was not for her. She was not the one that was being held. So when someone comes to your house to help you, whether it's your mom or your sister or your neighbor, whatever, and they come in and they're like, well, it's a mess in here. Let's clean up. Yeah. That's great. That's like getting insurance information, but you're actually not helping me in that moment with what it is that I need emotionally with what's going on.
You know, what's also very hard to accept help as well.
Yeah.
And to guide people the way, like how they can help.
Yeah. To delegate. Yeah.
And that's what we talk about a lot with the families. Because childbirth education, it's not only about like physics of the birth. Mm-hmm. It's about like how your life can change after and what can you do to make this process more smooth. Yeah. And that one of the very important things to tell people, you know, I feel bad. I feel lost. I need your help and I know how you can help me. You don't have to hold my baby. Yeah. I want to hold my baby. I want to nurse my baby. Can you help me with the cleaning, laundry, you know, cooking and everything else? Yeah. The way I can enjoy those precious moments with my baby. But what people do most of the times, they take the baby from mom and the mom get nervous, like anxious about what's going on.
Yeah, of course. And it's scientifically, we know that when you separate the mother and the baby, then they both go into a stress state. So in the midwifery setting, if we have a mom who is showing us that she's just not coping, her blood pressure is a little off, her blood sugar is a little, she's just not quite feeling like herself, we're like, where's the baby? Put the baby back on the mom. And you put the baby back on the mom and all of a sudden mom regulates.
I've had so much different things during my path when I had my daughter. Then I was like, I'm going to do my homework with my son because we were living here only like a year and a half. And I just realized that I'm pregnant again. And I'm like, there is no way I'm going into the hospital this time.
Not doing it that way. No, thank
I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And I started to dig and I've been reading and watching and doing some classes. I was like, I need to understand what's going on. Hopefully I've had already experience of the natural birth, except all of the behavior from the medical staff. My birth was wonderful. Yeah. So I was like, no.
It wasn't the birth that traumatized you.
Yes, exactly.
It was the way you were treated.
And actually, most of the times, the reason why women get traumatized, not because of the birth. It's just because of what's going on. And I have another story. So I had a mom and, her active labor was very quick. So she became fully dilated very, very quick, but she had some issue during the pushing period, even though she didn't have any epidural or anything, was so quick.
Yeah.
But the baby kind of stuck, as you said. So, and we were talking with the midwives, like, what's going on, what we're going to do. And we decided on doing, like a vacuum
extraction.
Yeah. And it took us like a couple of minutes to deliver this baby. It was just the angle, and the baby was beautifully
in the hospital.
Good. Yeah. And there was any issues with the baby and lots of stuff, but it took us a while. So she was pushing for like almost 5 hours. It was a long
long push.
But the funniest thing is when I was speaking with this mom, she was so inspired by her birth. She was like, that was so amazing. And I was thinking to myself, but girl, you had a vacuum and it was so long and you've been doing this without epidural. And she was like, that was so good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is exactly what I want, people to feel after my support, even though, and despite all of that, what's going on.
Right. Because we can't guarantee what's going on. We can't guarantee if it's a 6-hour birth or a 36-hour birth. We can't guarantee if you need forceps or a vacuum, or if you're going to push on your bed, or you're going to push on the toilet, or you're going to deliver abdominally in the surgery room. We can't guarantee any of that. That journey is very much part of the mystery of birth and life and death, right? We don't know. What we do know is that the person who feels heard and seen and supported and not endangered.
And in control, kind of in control what's going on.
Well, heard and seen.
Yeah.
Heard and seen is a form of being in control, because if we feel completely shut down, that doesn't yield good outcomes for anybody. Because how many times have you, and I've talked about this before, sometimes you'll have a home birth and the home birth goes exactly the opposite of what the client wanted. We needed a transfer. You ended up in the hospital. She had an epidural because she really needed pain management. And she comes out of it and she's like, that was glorious. That was amazing. Like, I was heard. I was listened to. I needed to go. I felt intuitively that I wanted to go, because her perception was that she was heard and she was safe. And you can have the opposite, where you look at someone and you look at it on paper, they tell you the story and like, well, that doesn't sound like too bad. But for her, I mean, my own birth story included, if you look at my birth story on paper, it is absolutely beautiful.
Okay.
4 hours, easy.
Oh, okay.
Perfect size baby, good APGARs, healthy mom, healthy baby. My experience led me to the psychologist. So it's really about what is the perception of the person who's going through it and what is the support that they're getting.
You know, what's also very important, we were talking about the layers, like our conscious side, like, can you dig deeper and see what's going on before or not? Because you can drown into a trauma during the process and you can behave unusual to yourself. Yeah. And that's a very important to do lots of work before. And I noticed that either you choose a hospital or either you choose like a home birth. If you didn't heal your trauma before, you can go into the home birth experience, but deep down in your heart, you could have just don't trust the conception of the home birth. You know what I mean?
I do.
I've seen mothers like that. So they were like, there is no way I'm going into the hospital. I don't trust doctors. I don't. But deep down, they were like, home birth. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking, what I'm going to do? Yeah. What if the emergency transfer?
Absolutely.
And this is exactly what happens.
Yeah, you're in a hard place, right?
Yes.
Because you're not comfortable in either one. We saw a lot of that in COVID, where people were like, I'm afraid to go to the hospital.
But I don't trust the home birth.
So what do you do? Yeah.
You're stuck in between.
Absolutely.
Like, what I'm going to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's a very important decision to make. And that's why during my interview, I keep asking lots of questions. And I'm like, please explore this field, maybe a home birth. And I've had one mom, and I think she was Iranian or something. And she was like, my mom,
my people.
Yeah, my mom, she's a midwife, and like her mom had 8 children. And she delivered them at home, all of them. So she became a midwife and all of that. But that specific woman, she just followed the mom's lead, but she knew nothing about the birth. And when she felt a contraction, she was like, so she kind of freezed. And, I went to them and see what's going on. I was like, let's walk, let's do something. She was laying down on the side for hours. I couldn't inspire her to do anything. She was just laying
frozen
down. So her cervix gets so swollen that the midwife, she just saw her cervix and she was like, do you want to stay? Because she was ruptured for a long time. It was lots of different factors. And then she went to the hospital and I went there with them. She got an epidural and in an hour and a half, she delivered her baby. And she was like, epidural, that was the best thing happened to me. Yeah. So she chose the home birth just because of the mom said so, kind of, you know?
No, absolutely. And how many times do we see the opposite, where the mom says, I had 5 C-sections, just have a C-section.
Yeah.
So it can go, our mother's birth stories, if we have access to our mother and if we have access to our birth mother, can be very empowering, but it can also be very disempowering. Because when we listen to birth stories, a piece of that stays with us, whether it's your neighbor, your teacher, your friend, and it stays in our vault. It stays in the vault. But when it's your mother's story and you've heard it over and over and over and over again, it's almost made a neural pathway for them.
Sometimes they damaged, sometimes mothers can damage kids by telling the birth story.
For sure.
Because might be lots of pain and it might be lots of guilt.
Yeah.
For you.
For sure.
And you bringing this guilt to your birth. So you afraid to do something wrong with your baby, yourself, more than maybe a usual person. So that's why you get more connected with the medical stuff, because they promising you like, we're going to avoid all of the problems, all of the risks.
Yes, we will save you.
Yeah, we create a risk where there's no risk, but then
we create the high risk, but we can fix the problem after it's done.
Exactly.
I always say that. I always say that because people are like, well, you know that in the hospital, you don't have when you're not in the hospital, you don't have an OR. It's like, you're absolutely right. I don't have an OR. So how does that work? Like that's dangerous. In hospitals, so many times the OR saves the day. Yes. But in many circumstances, the hospital policy, procedure, protocol increases the risk that makes you need the OR that they have. It's just a completely different way to mitigate it. So ideally, you are connected with a family. I know like 90% of your clients are Russian speaking, often coming here to have their babies in the third trimester and being connected with you that way. Tell me the process.
Yeah. So it's pretty rare. I take people abroad. Most of my families, they live here, and some of them live here for 25 years, for example. Mm-hmm. So they speak perfect English, but they still want someone next to them speaking their language.
The mother tongue, yeah.
And also they asking about my experience because as I said, I've been there with my daughter and I did my homework. So I found a beautiful birth center here in Santa Clarita. And I went there and I'm like, oh, I want to deliver here. So
shout out to Pure Birth over there.
Yes. And I met Tiffany and I've met Shayla. That was my midwife. And that was so funny because I was supporting one of my clients and I met Sheila once again. And she was like, I've seen her somewhere. And I'm like,
Sheila Feldman. Yeah. Do you know she was on the podcast?
Oh, really?
Sheila is my
I need to see that.
birth worker friend.
I need to see that.
Ever.
And I was like, I remember you from somewhere. She was like, I delivered your baby. And I'm like, damn it.
I was a little distracted.
I was so grateful. And I'm still so grateful. My baby was almost 9 pounds. He was a
big baby.
Huge guy. Yeah.
Way bigger than his sister.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, 3 pounds.
Yeah. And he was chubby. I mean, Yeah, he gained
your American baby.
Yeah, exactly. No, he is a giant. He was a giant, and he like every month he got like 3 pounds plus almost every month. And my pediatrician, she was so suspicious. She was like, are you only like breastfeeding him? I'm like, yes. Are you sure? And I'm like, I'm sure. I'm a mother.
Yeah. Breast milk and chocolate ice cream.
Yes. Both. That's it. She was like, no formula. I'm like, no formula at all. Yeah. So I went to this birth center, and even though my labor and delivery took me 18 hours total, and in some point they were starting to talking about a transfer, because it was the end of August and it was so hot outside and I was a little bit dehydrated. So in some point the baby's heart rate dropped a little bit, and you know what I did? I shut myself in the bathroom again. And I was like, and I was doing some therapy session with myself, and I was like, you were so in protest going into the hospital, but they offering you to go into the hospital. So what you gonna do? And I was like, I accept everything. And once I said so, I calmed myself down, and I opened the bathroom door, and they came in, and they were like, oh, you fully dilated. Your baby's perfect. So let's deliver your baby. So I was like,
the acceptance.
Yes, I was like, I'm accepting everything. So if I need to go into the hospital, I'm going to go. If that's necessary for my baby, I'm going to go. But yeah, and I delivered my baby. So it was completely different experience. It was a water birth. It was candles everywhere, essential oils. They were hugging me a lot. They were telling me how beautiful my baby is. He was so big, and it was like a lotus birth. So they didn't cut the cord for a long time. So it was like completely different story. And in like 5 hours, I was laying down in my own bed with my baby. I breastfed both of my babies, for 18 months. Yeah. Maybe longer. 18 months probably, both of them. And, and I was like, man, it can be so different. Like, in some point, I was like, going through all of that process once again with my daughter and with my son. And I'm like, it's completely different experience. So I need to tell people, like, you can deliver differently. You don't have to go through all of that hell. And I'm like, okay, let's think about it. So time flies, and I'm like, okay, I was following one woman, she's Russian speaking. She has her own like doula school. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, I might take her classes. Let's see. And then she had a huge education. So it took me like almost 7 months to get licensed from Russia to become a doula, because it's
in Russia, it's a license or a certification?
It's more like a license, I would say, especially if you have like a psychological background. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and it called just like, mother support consultant, something like that. So it's not like a doula. You can do lots of different stuff. Mm-hmm. And we got lots of doctors in the course. They were talking about the hormones and, supplements and lots of different things, and lactation classes. And so it was a lot of information. And then I found out that in my area where I live, it's in Irvine, I found one of the birth centers that they accept interns. So you can go there.
Yes.
It's free for everyone. So you don't pay anything. They don't pay you anything, but they actually can give you the access to the birth. So you can open the door and see like,
absolutely.
How is it happening? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I was so excited. I'm like, wow. And then I stayed for like 6 months. I've been doing everything. I've been calling people. I've been sending emails, mails, like cleaning the kitchen or whatever.
Which birth center?
It calls South Coast Midwifery.
Yeah.
There is a Lori Walker. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's an amazing woman. Yeah. And, I was inspired by her a lot.
When I first became a doula, I remember watching some births in the sea. and it was in Russia.
I know.
And
I've seen classes like that. That was so wild.
In the Black Sea, right? It's Russian women having their babies in the Black Sea. And they sort of hang out there until they go into labor.
When I was doing my Duna training, they showed us exactly those videos. And it was so wild.
Yeah, and you're like, well, that wasn't my experience.
That was so wild. And I'm like, and it was like 80s or something.
Yeah.
It was a very old time.
Yeah, it's not a recent thing. But I'm just wondering, what is and Russia is a huge place, but what are you seeing typically from people who are coming from Russia per se? So let's just say St. Petersburg, let's say Russia and Moscow, the two big cities. What is the birth culture?
You know what's the main problem for Russian speaking community? They've seen lots of people being rude in the medical system when they yell at you, or they calling your names, or they doing such a rude stuff. For example, what happened to me, for example, the doctor broke my water without even asking me. Yeah. So it was a vaginal check, and he was like, "Oh, I'm breaking your water." So, and it happens still, and it happened a lot before. And then during the vaginal check, they can open the cervix using their fingers, and it was so painful.
Yeah.
And they can
strip your membranes
they can put the pillow without even telling you what's going on. And the mom started to go into the labor with a no time break in between contractions, for example. So that was a very wild journey. And when people got here and they see the opposite side with the smiling people and telling them lots of sweet things, most of the people from Russian community, if they don't know the system, they think it's just a paradise in here. They dreaming about delivery here in America. Because they don't know the bottom side of it. They were like, people are so nice here, They say hello to the strangers. Yeah. So when you go into the hospital, they don't tell you, what were you thinking when you sleep with someone. Yeah. They telling you, oh, hi, how beautiful you are. Let's meet your baby. Yeah. So they don't see the bottom side of it. So that's why they're so open-minded to this conception. So that's the problem. Because right now it's getting better. And right now people getting to know what doula is, what midwives is. I mean, people delivered their baby before at home as well, of course, but it was not so many of them. Yeah. Now it's getting better, but still the conception of having a baby painless, the quickest way and all of that, it's still in lots of minds, because we have several hospitals. They're very popular. They private, so you pay fortune for your delivery, but they were like, oh, we'll give you a walking epidural. So, they even have a massage service in a hospital. They can bring you a fancy, dinner or whatever. Yeah. So some people, when they're talking about the birth, they're like, oh, it was so amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's completely your choice, but I'm just telling that most of the people, they have some pieces, but they don't have a whole picture about what's going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And providers, they kind of telling them the one side as well. And especially when they promote induction, they only say, oh, I know you're tired, so let's deliver your baby.
Let's get this baby out.
It's going to be so quick. Yeah. You won't even notice. So we'll do this and that.
Blink of an eye.
Yes. And then you get an epidural and then you'll be so happy. It's not the case, unfortunately.
My son-in-law, his mother gave birth very young in Uzbekistan, and Soviet culture, Russian speaking, and they had actually paid a private doctor to come and deliver her. And when it was time to go to the hospital and have her baby, he was drunk and
the doctor.
Not the doctor.
It's a very common thing in Russia.
So her mother had put money, she had put cash in her pockets so that she could bribe the nurses.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just, it's
I'm
sure it happens all over the world.
Yeah.
And when she got to the hospital, she was very young. She was 19. Nobody was with her. So she gave some money to the nurse to sort of like get better care. But the nurse was very savvy. She turned her coat around and emptied all the pockets because she knew there was more money in there than what she'd given her. So there was no more money for the other nurses. So they wouldn't let anyone be with her. She was very young and she was in a ward and she was like, there was this woman in front of me, like screaming and squatting. And there was another woman who just was like, oh, and she squatted and had her baby. She's like, I was exposed to all of these things while I was laboring completely alone. They wouldn't let her mother in.
They didn't even have any private suits before.
Being 19 and terrified and alone, having to pay to get better treatment, or another friend of mine who needed stitches and went to his mother was a doctor. So she called her friend. It was a weekend. She was like, listen, my kid fell. He needs stitches. Can you come? So they go to the hospital for this friend doctor to do the stitches. So they give the kid anesthesia on his head to do the stitches. Well, in the middle, it took longer than they thought and the lidocaine ran out. So the kid is like, I feel it. Like they didn't have enough lidocaine to finish the job. So the doctor hits him on the side of his head.
Oh my God.
So that he gets knocked out so that he can continue.
Oh my God.
The surgery, the stitches. It wasn't even surgery. It was general. It was local. But the stories we hear of these scenarios that are then normalized, like, well, yeah, there wasn't enough lidocaine. What else was he supposed to do? Or yeah, the doctor was drunk. Very common.
I have a funny story too. That like the friend of mine, she's older than me. That when she was delivered her son, he texted her husband and saying about like their child, and she was texting so quickly because she didn't have any time, and she was like, "He's 3." And that means he's 3 kilograms, the baby. Mm-hmm. And the husband thought he needs $3,000 to pay for his baby. And he was like, I only have like 2 or something like that. She was like, no, you didn't get it. It's just the weight.
Exactly. The weight.
And that's funny, not funny,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or in countries
it was
where you have
pretty
to pay to get your baby out.
But the problem is, it's still pretty wild. And for example, they pushing the baby out using their hands a lot, the crystal.
Pushing on the baby.
Yes. So we got
mother's belly.
Lots of kids with disabilities because of that. And yes, it's not allowed and it's against the law, but it happened in so many cases. So that's why, as I'm saying, for Russian speaking community, when they compare, they were like, that's a paradise in here. People don't yell. You don't have to pay, or if you're paying out of pocket, you understand what you're paying for. You know what I mean? Yeah. But
paradise is relative depending to what hell you're coming from.
Yes. Yeah. When you compare, you're like, it's much better. But the problem is we still have some issues here.
A lot of issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like our maternal mortality.
And it's a problem because when you speak with the people and you're giving them, again, as you said, and I truly believe that everyone needs to choose whatever you feel it's yours. So I'm not giving you any advice because it's not my scope of practice. Yeah. I'm just giving you 2 sides of the story. So induction sometimes is necessary, but it has this and that and side effects as well.
For sure.
Epidural. Yes, of course, sometimes that's the only tool we can use to deliver the baby vaginally, for example, but it has lots of side effects and we need to talk about that. And I was so surprised when, I'm trying to stay at home with my clients as much as we can. So that's why sometimes we get into the hospital being dilated like 9 centimeters, 8 or 10 or
and
whatever.
And it's not like you're checking them. It's just because
I'm not checking. No, I can hear how they sound. And that's a very common question.
Exactly.
People keep asking me like, Sasha, how would you know? I'm like, I know, I can feel, I can know by speaking on the phone with you for 5 minutes.
That's right.
And then I've had several cases when we got into the hospital, the mom was so quiet, and then she was 9 centimeters, and the nurses, they were like, do you want to get an epidural? And I'm like, girls, like,
she's coping.
What are you doing? You wanna, damage the whole of the process? Like, what's going on? Like, after a certain of dilation, it's not a good idea to have an epidural, and you know that. So, and they were so surprised, and I'm like, you can't do epidural on 9 centimeters. They were like, no, we can. What's the problem? If she wants it, we're doing this.
Right, because they don't want to be in a scenario where the client requested it and then they get accused that we didn't offer it.
Because they don't want to get bad reviews.
The whole system is so flawed on so many levels. But we know that the client who easily got to 9 centimeters will likely get to 10 and then push out her own baby. That's just, it's showing, the body is showing us.
When we need the
tools, when we need the tools is when things are not going according to normalcy, Real quick, please tell me about the postpartum work that you do.
Yeah, I became a postpartum doula only less than a year, but I'm working with a different...
Officially. I'm sure you're a postpartum doula
of course.
Way before that.
It's so hard to... people keep asking, what is the postpartum care?
Yeah.
And it's so different for every family. For one family, they need more psychological support. And sometimes you come to the postpartum visit and you're just hugging a mom and she's just crying for 45 minutes.
You're a counselor.
That's it. And you're just sitting silent.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you hold the baby while the mom taking a shower or eating her already cold, like breakfast, and drinking her coffee or whatever.
At 11.
Yeah. Sometimes it's sometimes what happened, like, the delivery went very beautifully and the mom is recovering pretty good, but there is lots of issue with the breastfeeding. And there is a huge part, like psychological part during the lactation process as well, because, you're becoming, a whole world for the baby. And for some women, it's very challenging. So you need to not only fix the how the baby latching or whatever, you need to go through all of the steps with the mom and give her information how your breast is working, because it was still so much misunderstanding and providers again telling the wrong thing to the mothers. So they even like lactation
consultants in the hospital.
What we have in the hospital, they giving just a silicone shield for the mom in the first day, and then the mom get crazy.
Right. Or so much information that the client can't do. Like nurse, then pump, then nurse the other side, then pump, then come back to that side and hand express. Then, and then you get different information from different people. So the mom comes home like, she's like, I don't even know what to do. I'm completely overwhelmed.
The pumping, it's a problem number one.
There's too much pumping for sure.
In this field.
1,000,000%.
I truly believe in that but the thing is, even though I'm telling as a mantra every day, like, you have a child and you have a breast, they just need their own relationship. They need to build this relationship. So your breast needs to understand the baby's needs. And once they get connected, so let them do their own thing.
It takes time.
Don't interfere. But when you're pumping, you're giving your breast a wrong idea, like it's not enough milk.
Yeah.
But sometimes for some people, they don't get this connection. They were like, but if I don't pump, my breast getting bigger and bigger and I have so much milk. And also the pediatrician, they're giving lots of suggestions like that. And I've heard so many stories, like my pediatrician said, I need to pump. I want to kill myself. I'm like, stop. Like, that's insane. So, and the thing is, we have like 2-3 weeks that most critical in this.
For sure.
So if you're doing everything correctly, you'll be enjoying I'm telling, I was a breastfeeding mom for so long and it was so easy for me. And when I see, and you know what I noticed here in America, I don't see much breastfeeding mamas in here. It's only bottles. They everywhere. And even if the mom's breastfeeding, she's not feeding her babies anywhere. She's just putting the milk in a bottle and that's so interesting. And even like I get a comment in Instagram, they were like, and one of the moms, she was like, yes, I'm doing it every time, but I need to do it. I'm like, why do you need to do that? Mm-hmm. We have so much like, stuff. We have a clothes for the mothers. We have lots of like reboza, like whatever scarves you can use. Like, what are you afraid of? Why are you thinking about what people are thinking about you? You need to think about your comfort and your baby needs. Right. That's the number one priority. Yeah. So that's why, yes, it's so much stuff in there. So you need to give a mom, and sometimes what happened, like I just recently had a client, she had so much issue with her first daughter, and she was just discharged from the hospital, and I was already at her house waiting for her because she was like, to set her up. I'm not going to do it again, because she died by breastfeeding first time and she didn't feed her baby at all. So she was pumping for almost a year. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. Yes, there was some specific things in her case, but I truly believe that what I gave her, it's only because I believed in her. I did mostly nothing because I didn't find any issue, to be honest, like something really, but only because I keep telling her, like, you can do it. Your baby is healthy and your breast is perfectly created for this baby, even though she has a bunch of family members in her house, because her mom came and then her husband, and they were looking at her when she was breastfeeding and she was crying because it was painful because of the nipples and stuff like that. They were trying to get more of the nipple in the baby's mouth, and she was struggling. And people keep telling her, oh, forget about the breastfeeding. Why are you torturing yourself so hard? Forget about that. And I was the only person who said, it's worth it. Just give it you'll see, like, every day will be easier. Every day. And after that, I just she was just texted me, and she was like, I am so happy that I,
hung in there,
requested the consultation, and I'm breastfeeding my son, and he's like almost 2 months right now.
Wow.
And she was like, and I'm so proud of myself that I can finally close this gestalt and tell myself that I can do it. I'm
that empowerment, right?
And sometimes that's all you need to do. And as you said, sometimes you just need to hold a hand. And, as you noticed, for some birth, you need to be more active. You need to do a massage. You need to offer lots of different positioning and stuff like that. But sometimes you just need to be present.
That's right. Hold that space.
Yeah. And you can feel it. So your intuition kind of guides you. Yeah, guides you. So you know what to do. Yeah. So postpartum care, it's lots of different things. And yes, I do. I use Reboza a lot to kind of it's not closing of the bones, but still you're working with the body. You see is there any tension? Is what's going on? You're trying to relax all of the muscles. And I work with the essential oils. So I do the massage a little bit. I use herbs. So I do lots of different stuff to recover the body itself. I prepare the seeds bath for the moms. I do my own postpartum tea. I do my own postpartum seeds bath, herbs for the seeds bath.
Wow.
Yeah. So I bring them all of that stuff myself and, telling them, I'm giving them kind of in instruction what you can do yourself. Yeah. But during my visits, yes, I do everything for the mom in a way, because usually they were like, oh, okay, I'll do the seeds bath maybe later. Yeah. So you have to do it for her.
Yep. I made some yesterday for a client. Yeah. Leave it and make it easy.
Yeah.
Because it's hard in those first few days to wrap your head around so many things. But if your snack is in front of you and your meal is ready and you have your water made for you and your sitz bath is ready, then you're not overwhelmed with all those things that you have to do. It's accessible, and that will lead to your healing. So you get stronger so you can do it yourself.
And you're reminding them again. You know what happened? There is a transition. Like when you're pregnant, everyone cares about you. They were like, oh, what do you want? What do you want to eat? Blah, blah, blah. And once you deliver your baby, they were like, oh, forget about you.
Yeah. The baby's baby. So cute.
Oh, what about me?
Yeah.
What about me? I just delivered a human being.
Totally.
So who's going to think about me? So that's why I'm just keep reminding them that you create a whole person. So give it a time. So be gentle to yourself. Be attentive to your needs. So forget about laundry. Who cares? It's like the mom gets in so many different emotions. So there is a guilt that maybe you can't do regular things. There is lots of anger that you kind of stuck. So especially for the first time being mom, I remember myself, like, you were so independent. You were like, if I want to go somewhere, I'm going.
Just
and
grab
I'm
my
not
bag
asking
and go.
anyone. But now
I don't need to take luggage with me every time.
So dramatically. And you're like, I want to take a shower. And nobody cares if you want to take a shower.
Or you're sitting on the toilet with your baby.
Said, no, you're not going. And that's the hardest part.
Sure. Very hard.
All of the motherhood, I would say.
Especially for the ones who are so independent. And have children later, so they have bigger careers and bigger responsibilities and more control over their life over the course of years. It's very, very difficult. I just wish, first of all, thank you for being on the podcast. I wish that everybody could have the kind of support and love and grace and wisdom and education that you bring, because truly, if more mothers, more birthing people had that support during the pregnancy and for the birth and in the postpartum period, we would just have better outcomes. And really, peace on earth really begins with that birth and how we hold the person who's having the baby and hold the babies too. Thank you for being here. You're incredible. I hope to have you on again. We have so much to talk about.
Yes, I know.
So many
We're out of the time.
Thank you. How do you say thank you in Russian?
Спасибо.
Spasibo. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Mama Tusa podcast on the Industry Plant Podcast Network. Mama Tusa is hosted by me, Atusa Benji, and produced by Josh Stretton Carlson. Our theme music is composed by Mary Lalazarian. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider leaving us a review and subscribing. See you next Tuesday.